She fled the storm and found a human, alive, armed, and laughing. The escape pod's hull screamed as it tore through the atmosphere, vibrating with such intensity that Fevra's teeth rattled in her skull. Warning lights bathed her blue-tinged skin in angry red as the vessel plummeted toward the planet's surface. Her long, pointed ears folded back against her head in a futile attempt to block out the cacophony of alarms. Navigation offline, life support critical, brace for impact. The computerized voice remained infuriatingly calm while announcing her probable death. Fevra gripped the harness, crossing her chest, her slender fingers turning nearly white as she fought against the violent shaking. Come on, she hissed, her other hand desperately working the pod's manual controls. Just give me something to work with? Through the viewport, she caught glimpses of jagged mountain peaks between swirling clouds, illuminated by lightning. The Zanari colony ship, her home for the past 7 cycles, had disintegrated in the ion storm above, leaving her escape pod tumbling toward a planet officially designated as uninhabitable in all Zanari records. A planet where she would almost certainly die alone. The pod lurched sideways as atmospheric thrusters fired asymmetrically, briefly giving Fevra hope before the control panel erupted in sparks. She threw up her arm to shield her face, the acrid smell of burning circuitry filling the tiny cabin. Impact in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Fevra closed her eyes, her mind flashing to Captain Thala's final order. Get to the escape pods. Save who you can. She'd tried. Stars help her. She'd tried. The world became chaos. Metal tore, glass shattered. Her body slammed against the restraints with bone-crushing force despite the emergency gel deploying around her. Something struck her temple, and darkness swallowed her consciousness. When awareness returned, it came with pain. Fevra groaned, blinking against the sticky wetness of blood seeping from a gash above her eye. The escape pod lay at an odd angle, its door hanging ajar. Daylight, harsh and unfiltered, streamed through the opening. She unfastened her harness with trembling fingers and immediately collapsed onto the tilted floor. Every muscle screamed in protest as she dragged herself toward the emergency supply compartment. Survival kit, she whispered through cracked lips. Medical supplies, emergency beacon. The compartment had partially ruptured, its contents scattered. She gathered what she could, a portable medical unit, water purification tabs, emergency rations, and stuffed them into a compact field pack. The distress beacon was damaged, its casing cracked, but it still had power. She clutched it to her chest for a moment, a small comfort in this nightmare. Fevra crawled toward the open door, wincing as sharp debris cut into her palms. The air that greeted her was hot and thick with moisture, nothing like the carefully regulated atmosphere of the colony ship. She pulled herself outside and collapsed onto hard, rocky ground. The landscape that surrounded her seemed to be mocking the uninhabitable classification. Lush vegetation crowded the crash site, strange fern-like plants with purple undersides reaching taller than she stood. Rock formations jutted through the greenery, their surfaces glittering with embedded minerals that caught the sunlight. In the distance, a mountain range stretched across the horizon, its peaks disappearing into churning storm clouds that flickered with continual lightning. The crash had left a deep furrow in the earth, with pieces of her pod scattered in a debris field that stretched at least 100 meters. Fevra activated her personal scanner, strapped to her wrist like a second skin. The device flickered and then stabilized, displaying atmospheric readings that made her pointed ears twitch in confusion. That can't be right, she muttered, tapping the screen. Oxygen levels within tolerable parameters? Radiation minimal? According to Zanari intelligence, this planet should have been a toxic wasteland, rendered uninhabitable by its unstable star and extreme electromagnetic activity. Yet here she stood, breathing without assistance. Intelligence had been catastrophically wrong, which meant there might be a chance she could survive long enough for rescue. If anyone else had survived to rescue her, Fevra shook her head, dislodging the thought. She needed to focus on immediate concerns, securing the crash site, salvaging what she could, establishing shelter before nightfall. She returned to the pod, methodically gathering supplies and taking inventory. The sun had moved significantly across the alien sky when she sensed it, a prickling sensation at the base of her neck, her ears swiveling instinctively to catch sounds beyond the normal range of most species. Someone or something was watching her. She froze, her hand sliding to the small pulse weapon at her hip. Standard issue for navigation officers, barely more than a deterrent against aggressive wildlife. She'd never had cause to use it before. "Who's there?" she called, her voice sounding small in the vast openness. "Show yourself!" The dense vegetation rustled. Fevra raised her weapon, aiming at the movement with hands that refused to stay steady. A figure emerged from between the fern-like plants, and Fevra's breath caught in her throat. It was impossible, completely, utterly impossible. A human male stood before her, tall and muscular with sun-bronzed skin. He wore what appeared to be handcrafted clothing of animal hide and woven plant fibers. His jawline was darkened with facial hair, and his eyes, a startling shade of green, assessed her with clear intelligence. Most shockingly, he held an advanced-looking rifle with comfortable familiarity, and he was smiling. "Well," he said in a voice rough from disuse but undeniably amused, "you're definitely not from around here." Fevra kept her weapon aimed directly at his chest, her mind racing. Humans had vanished from this sector of space nearly a decade ago after the resource wars. Finding one here, alive and well on a supposedly uninhabitable planet, defied all explanation. "Neither are you," she replied, fighting to keep her voice even. "Humans don't survive here." The man's smile widened into a grin, and then, most disconcerting of all, he laughed, a rich sound that echoed off the rock formations around them. "Tell that to me and my 3 years of surviving just fine," he said, lowering his weapon slightly. "I'm Cole, and you might want to save that power cell for something more threatening than me. The real predators come out at sunset, which," he glanced at the sky, "gives us about 40 minutes to get somewhere safe." As if to emphasize his point, a distant howl echoed across the landscape, a sound that made Fevra's fur stand on end along her neck and arms. Cole extended his hand, his eyes never leaving hers. "What's it going to be? Stay here and find out what made that sound, or trust the impossible human?" Fevra stared at Cole's outstretched hand, her pulse weapon still aimed at his chest. The howl came again, closer this time, sending a shiver down her spine. "What are those things?" she asked, ears twitching toward the sound. "Locals call them shadow stalkers, 6 legs, excellent night vision, and very fond of fresh meat." Cole's expression remained calm. "I'd rather not be dinner tonight." Another shriek pierced the air, and Fevra made her decision. She lowered her weapon and grabbed her salvaged supplies. "Lead the way," she said, ignoring his offered hand. Cole nodded, seemingly unbothered by her caution. "Stay close, the path gets tricky." He moved with surprising grace through the dense foliage, his rifle held at the ready. Fevra followed, her eyes constantly drawn to him, a living, breathing human where none should exist. Her species had encountered humans rarely, and those encounters had typically ended in conflict. Yet here she was, following one into unknown territory. "You said you've been here 3 years?" she asked, ducking under a low-hanging vine. 3 years, 2 months, 17 days. Cole glanced back at her. "Not that I'm counting." "But this planet is classified as uninhabitable. The electromagnetic storms alone should kill all electronics and eventually any complex life forms," he finished her thought. "Yeah, that's what everyone thinks. Reality's a bit different." They crested a ridge, and Fevra stopped short. Below them stretched a lush valley, nestled between towering cliffs. A waterfall cascaded into a crystal-clear pool surrounded by the purple ferns she'd seen earlier. And there, built into the rock face itself, was a structure. "Welcome to my humble abode," Cole said, a hint of pride in his voice. The dwelling was an ingenious blend of natural cave and constructed elements. Solar panels were integrated into the rock above, positioned to catch maximum sunlight. A small garden grew in terraced beds near the entrance, filled with plants Fevra didn't recognize. "You built this?" she asked, unable to hide her amazement. "Had to do something with all my free time." His smile returned, warming his eyes. "Come on, let's get inside before our friends arrive for dinner." As they approached, Fevra noticed the subtle defensive features. The clear sightlines, the strategically placed barriers, the hidden observation points. Cole hadn't just survived here, he'd created a fortress. He pressed his palm against what appeared to be solid rock, and a section slid aside, revealing an entrance. Fevra hesitated at the threshold. "I won't bite," Cole said, his expression softening. "Scout's honor." Inside, the contrast to the wild exterior was stark. The space was organized, clean, and surprisingly cozy. Handcrafted furniture filled the main room, illuminated by soft lighting that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Bioluminescent algae, Cole explained, noticing her gaze, mixed with a transparent resin, provides light without drawing power. Fevra's ears flicked forward in interest. Resourceful. Necessary. Cole set his rifle on a wall mount. Power's precious here. Have to conserve where I can. He moved to what appeared to be a kitchen area, filling a kettle with water from a filtration system built into the wall. "You're hurt. Let me help you with that." Fevra touched the wound on her temple, having almost forgotten it. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding blue on my floor." His tone remained light. "Sit, please." Reluctantly, she perched on one of his handmade chairs. Cole gathered medical supplies from a cabinet and knelt before her. This close, she could smell him, an unfamiliar yet not unpleasant mix of human and something that reminded her of the forest outside. "This might sting," he warned, applying a clear liquid to her wound. Fevra hissed, her ears flattening against her head. Cole smiled apologetically, his hands surprisingly gentle as he cleaned the gash. "So," he said conversationally, "do all your people have these?" He gestured to her ears. "Yes, they're more sensitive than human ears, better range of hearing." "Useful," he commented, applying a sealing agent to her cut, "and beautiful." The compliment caught Fevra off guard. She studied him more closely, the lines around his eyes suggesting he smiled often, the scars on his hands telling stories of survival, the focused intensity of his gaze as he tended to her wound. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Cole sat back on his heels considering her question. 3 years is a long time to go without conversation, even longer without seeing another face. His eyes met hers, even one as different as yours. The kettle whistled, and he stood to prepare 2 cups of a steaming, fragrant liquid. "It's tea of a sort, local herbs, not poisonous to your biology, I promise." "How would you know what's poisonous to me?" Fevra accepted the cup cautiously. "I was a research scientist before all this." Something dark flickered across his expression. "Xenobiology was my specialty." Outside, the shadows lengthened as the sun dipped behind the mountains. The strange howls grew closer, more numerous. Cole moved to the entrance, securing several locks and what appeared to be an energy shield. "Home sweet home," he said, rejoining her. "Safe from whatever's out there, for tonight at least." Fevra sipped the tea, surprised by its pleasant taste. "And tomorrow?" Cole's eyes met hers, something unreadable in their depths. "Tomorrow, you tell me what brought you crashing down on my little paradise, and I'll help you figure out what comes next." The lights dimmed automatically as night fell completely, leaving them in the gentle glow of the bioluminescent walls. In that soft light, with the sounds of predators prowling outside, Fevra felt the first stirrings of something unexpected. Trust in this impossible human who had carved a life out of a world that should have killed him. She watched as he moved around the space, preparing what seemed to be dinner, and wondered what other surprises this planet and this man might hold. Morning arrived with golden light filtering through cleverly positioned skylights. Fevra woke disoriented, her body aching from the crash. She'd spent the night on a surprisingly comfortable pallet in a small alcove of Cole's home. She found him outside, tending to his garden in the early light. His back was to her, muscles shifting beneath his skin as he worked the soil. He wore only loose pants, his upper body bare and bronzed by the alien sun. "Your communications device," he said without turning, "it's damaged beyond repair." Fevra approached, stopping a few paces away. "How do you know that?" "I took a look while you were sleeping." Now he turned, wiping soil from his hands. "Hope you don't mind. I thought I might be able to fix it." "You went through my things?" Her ears flattened in anger. Cole stood, facing her directly. "Would you rather I'd let you wake up with false hope?" The bluntness of his response surprised her. She held his gaze, searching for deceit and finding none. "Can you show me what you do here?" she asked finally. How you survive? His face broke into that disarming smile. Breakfast first. Over a meal of cultivated fruits and something similar to bread, Cole explained his daily routines. Hunting during the cooler mornings, maintaining his defenses, collecting water, tending his gardens. The key is working with the planet, not against it, he explained, gesturing with a piece of fruit. The storms have patterns. The predators have habits. Everything has a rhythm once you learn to listen. After breakfast, he took her to a workshop built into another section of the cave. Tools lined the walls, some recognizable, others clearly of his own design. This is where I spend most of my time, he said, showing her various projects, keeping systems running, improving defenses, experimenting with local materials. Fevra ran her fingers over a partially completed circuit board. You built all this from salvage? And what I could create from native resources. His voice lowered, taking on a quality she hadn't heard before. It's amazing what necessity teaches you. He was standing very close now, close enough that she could feel his body heat radiating against her skin. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. The storms will be back tonight, he said, his voice rough. They always come in cycles here. Is that why your home is built into the rock? He nodded, best shelter from the electromagnetic pulses. As predicted, by evening, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. They ate dinner as lightning danced across the distant mountains, casting eerie shadows through the skylights. Why did you laugh? Fevra asked suddenly. When we first met, you laughed. Cole leaned back in his chair, studying her. 3 years without seeing another person, and suddenly there you were, blue skin, pointed ears, and a tiny weapon aimed at my chest. It was either laugh or cry. A powerful crack of thunder shook the dwelling. The lights flickered and went out, leaving only the soft glow of the bioluminescent walls. Power converters tripped, Cole said, rising. The backup should. Another thunderclap, louder than the first, and the whole structure trembled. A section of ceiling collapsed near the entrance, sending rocks and dust cascading inward. My bedroom, Cole said, already moving. It's the most secure room. He grabbed her hand, pulling her through the darkened dwelling as the storm's fury intensified. His bedroom was small, dominated by a bed built into the rock wall, the door sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. It's shielded, he explained, his voice close in the dimness. Should ride out the worst of it in here. They stood in the small space, bodies nearly touching as the storm raged outside. Each thunderclap seemed to vibrate through Fevra's bones, making her ears twitch involuntarily. You're trembling, Cole said softly. I'm not afraid, she responded automatically. His hand found her face in the dim light, fingers gently tracing the curve of her cheek. I didn't say you were. Fevra's breath caught. In the soft glow of the emergency lights, his eyes looked almost luminous. She should step away, maintain distance. Instead, she leaned into his touch. Cole, she whispered, uncertain what she was asking for. He answered by closing the distance between them, his lips finding hers in the darkness, as the storm unleashed its fury around their shelter. Morning found them entwined in Cole's bed, her blue skin stark against his tanned human complexion. Fevra traced the scars on his chest, memorizing each mark of survival. We should check the damage, Cole murmured against her hair, his fingers gently stroking her sensitive ears. Fevra nodded, though neither moved. The storm had forged something between them that felt fragile, new, and powerful all at once. Eventually, they rose and surveyed the aftermath. Most systems had protected themselves by shutting down, but the main entrance was partially blocked by fallen debris. We'll have to use the emergency exit, Cole said, leading her to a concealed panel in the rear of the dwelling. Outside, the landscape had transformed. Trees lay flattened in long, directional swaths. The air smelled different, charged and metallic. The valley, Fevra said suddenly. I need to check my crash site. There might be salvageable parts for a long-range communicator. Cole's expression shifted subtly. The storm probably scattered everything. I need to try, she insisted. They made their way through the altered landscape. At the crash site, Fevra methodically searched through debris while Cole kept watch, his rifle ready. There's something not right about these storm patterns, she said, examining a twisted piece of her ship's hull. The intensity, the frequency, they're almost artificial. Cole's silence drew her attention. He stood rigid, scanning the horizon. Cole? We should head back, he said tersely. It's not safe here. Fevra ignored him, continuing her search until her scanner detected an unusual energy signature emanating from beneath a section of displaced Earth. She began to dig. Fevra, Cole's voice held a warning. We need to go, now. She uncovered a metallic panel with markings that made her blood run cold. Human military insignia, not worn with age but relatively new. What is this? She demanded, turning to Cole. What aren't you telling me? His expression hardened. Put it back and walk away. No, she continued, uncovering the object. This is recent human technology, on a planet supposedly uninhabited for decades. Cole moved with unexpected speed, pulling her away from the discovery. There are things you don't understand. Then help me understand. She wrenched free of his grasp. What are you hiding? Their standoff was interrupted by a distant mechanical whine, unmistakably the sound of engines. Inside, Cole ordered, all warmth gone from his voice, now. Back at his dwelling, Cole sealed all entrances and activated a camouflage system she hadn't seen before. The exterior of the structure shimmered and then seemed to blend perfectly with the surrounding rock. You weren't stranded here, Fevra said, the pieces falling into place. You chose this. Tightened. Yes. Why? What's on this planet that's worth living in isolation for 3 years? He moved to a hidden panel in the floor, revealing a secure compartment. From it, he extracted a data drive. This is why. His voice was heavy with resignation. I wasn't alone when I came here. I was part of a research team, military research. Fevra's ears flattened against her head. The ion storm that destroyed my ship. Wasn't natural, Cole confirmed, his eyes meeting hers with painful honesty. The storms here can be manufactured, focused, and directed. What your people encountered was likely a weapons test. The revelation hit Fevra like a physical blow. You've been watching them test weapons while innocent people die? No, Cole's voice cracked with emotion. I've been hiding the evidence that could make it worse. He held up the data drive. This contains everything. Research data, test results, coordinates of the facility. I stole it when I realized what Dr. Harlow and the others were creating. Outside, the mechanical sounds grew closer. They're coming, Cole said grimly, and now they know I'm not alone. We need to move, Cole said, gathering essential supplies with practiced efficiency. There's a network of caves deeper in the mountains. We can lose them there. Fevra stood frozen, processing his revelation. My people didn't know this planet was marked uninhabitable in all our records. The perfect cover for weapons development. Cole handed her a pack. That's why I chose exile, to prevent this technology from being weaponized further. They slipped out through a hidden tunnel that wound deep into the mountain. As they emerged on a ridge, Cole pointed to a distant structure, barely visible among the peaks. The primary facility, he explained. That's where Harlow continued the research after I escaped with the critical data. Who's Harlow? My research partner. Bitterness edged Cole's voice. We discovered that the unique mineral composition here could generate and direct energy storms powerful enough to disable any technology or annihilate it completely. The implications struck Fevra with chilling clarity. A weapon that could destroy fleets without conventional weaponry. Exactly. When I objected to militarizing our findings, I became a liability. Cole led her along a narrow path, so I took matters into my own hands. By nightfall, they reached a plateau overlooking a hidden valley. In its center stood a vast complex partially built into the mountainside. Lights indicated active operations. I need to show you something, Cole said, guiding her to a concealed viewpoint. Below, massive arrays pointed skyward, glowing with the same energy signature as the storms that had destroyed Fevra's ship. They're running trials in increasing intensity, Cole explained. Your colony ship was likely an unintended target, or worse, a deliberate test on a live target. Fevra's ears flattened in anger. My people were refugees, not threats. Captain Thala led us here, seeking a new home after our world became uninhabitable. I'm sorry, Cole's voice softened as he took her hand. I've been trying to sabotage their efforts remotely, but I'm just one person. Now there are two of us, Fevra said, her fingers intertwining with his. Their eyes met in the dim light, understanding passing between them. Cole pulled her against him, his kiss desperate and seeking reassurance. She responded with equal fervor, her body melding against his as if they'd known each other for years rather than days. When they broke apart, breathing heavily, Cole rested his forehead against hers. I've been alone for so long, he whispered, fighting a battle I couldn't win. You're not alone anymore, Fevra replied, her ears tilting forward in determination. My people have been searching for a new home, not a war. But if your military threatened mine, we need to stop this before more lives are lost. Cole's hand caressed the curve of her ear, sending delicious shivers down her spine. There's a way to disrupt their entire operation, but it's dangerous. Fevra's hands found the buckles of his survival vest, slowly unfastening them. Tell me in the morning, she murmured against his lips. Tonight I need this, need you. Under the stars of a world that had brought them together against all odds, they surrendered to a passion that transcended their differences. Their bodies spoke a language of trust and commitment that words could not express, forging a bond that would be tested in the coming days. As Fevra curled against Cole's warmth afterward, watching the distant facility through half-lidded eyes, she made her choice. Whatever loyalty she once had to her people's mission paled against what she now felt for this human who had chosen exile to protect the innocent. She would help him finish what he started, whatever the cost. Dawn broke with newfound purpose. Cole showed Fevra his hideout's most protected section, a communications center built from salvaged technology. If we can modify your distress beacon, Cole explained, pointing to schematics, we could send a narrowband message to any surviving members of your colony ship. Fevra studied the designs, her fingers tracing the circuitry. We'd need to boost the signal strength significantly, but yes, it could work. They spent days in focused collaboration, breaking only for meals and brief moments of increasingly passionate connection. As they worked, they shared stories of their lives before this planet brought them together. I was considered brilliant but difficult, Cole confessed, soldering a delicate connection, always questioning authority. It made me a good scientist but a terrible soldier. Fevra's ears twitched with amusement. I was the perfect navigator, always following the path laid out for me. Her hand covered his. Until now. Their creation took shape, a hybrid of Zenari and human technology, capable of bypassing the electromagnetic interference that surrounded the planet. Cole added a critical component from his stolen data drive. This will encode the message, he explained. Anyone looking for standard distress signals won't detect it. On the 7th day, they were ready. Under cover of darkness, they positioned the device on a high ridge away from the research facility. It needs to run for exactly 18 minutes, Cole said, making final adjustments. Then we retrieve it and return to shelter before they can trace it. Fevra initiated the sequence, her fingers dancing across the controls with practiced precision. The beacon hummed to life, its core glowing softly as it sent their carefully crafted message into space. Cole pulled her away from the device into the shadow of a rock outcropping. His arms encircled her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder as they watched the beacon work. "What now?" she asked, leaning back against his chest. "Now we wait," he replied, his breath warm against her ear. "If anyone survived, if they received this message, they'll come." She turned in his arms facing him. "And then?" The question hung between them, laden with implications. Cole's fingers traced the curve of her face, his expression serious. "Then we have a choice to make," he said simply. Fevra rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his. The kiss deepened, communicating what words could not, that perhaps their choices had already been made. The beacon suddenly flared, bright enough to illuminate their hiding place. They broke apart, alarmed. "That's not supposed to happen," Cole said, rushing toward the device. Before they reached it, the beacon stabilized, but now its lights pulsed in an unfamiliar pattern. "It's receiving," Fevra whispered, ears perked forward in concentration. "Someone's responding." Cole's face paled. "Did you program it to receive transmissions?" No, only to send. She examined the controls. This is something else. The message decoded into coordinates, a location on the far side of the planet. These aren't from my people, Fevra said, dread growing. The signature is wrong. A distant rumble caught their attention. From the direction of the research facility, lights moved in their direction. They've detected the transmission, Cole said grimly. We need to move. They grabbed the beacon and fled, but as they reached the tree line, the device activated again, blaring a signal that echoed across the valley. It's been compromised, Cole shouted, attempting to shut it down. They've overridden the controls remotely. Fevra snatched the beacon from him and smashed it against a rock, silencing it instantly. In the sudden quiet, another sound reached them, the distinctive hum of approaching aircraft. Run, Cole said, taking her hand. Behind them, searchlights cut through the darkness, seeking the source of the mysterious signal that had just revealed their position to their enemies, and potentially to Fevra's people as well. 3 days passed in tense vigilance. They had retreated to one of Cole's emergency shelters, a cramped but secure cavity beneath a waterfall. Your reflexes are improving, Cole noted, as Fevra successfully blocked his strike. They had spent the morning practicing combat techniques, their bodies moving in rhythmic sparring. I was trained in navigation, not fighting, she replied, her breath coming fast. Cole adjusted her stance, his hands lingering at her waist. Fighting isn't just about strength. It's about anticipating your opponent's moves. Their training sessions had become a strange blend of combat preparation and intimate dance. Each touch lasted longer than necessary, each grapple ending with lingering contact. After midday, they ventured out to scout the surrounding area. Cole led her to a concealed vantage point overlooking a narrow valley. Look, he whispered, passing her his binoculars. Through the enhanced lenses, Fevra spotted what had caught his attention, a small landing pad hidden among the dense vegetation, recently constructed. That wasn't there before, she said, ears twitching forward. No, and look at the markings. Cole directed her gaze to symbols etched into the clearing's perimeter. Those aren't human military. Fevra felt her blood run cold. Zenari script, military classification markings. Their eyes met in understanding. Your people didn't just stumble onto this planet, Cole said grimly. They knew, Fevra whispered, the realization sinking in. They must have been monitoring it before our ship arrived. They crept closer, using the dense undergrowth as cover. Signs of recent activity surrounded the landing site, footprints, discarded equipment, sensor arrays placed at strategic intervals. This is an advanced scout position, Fevra said, examining a partially buried communications relay. Military, not civilian. Commander Vasik's tactical signature is all over this. Cole's jaw tightened. How long has your military been watching this planet? I don't know, she admitted. The colony ship was civilian, refugees seeking a new homeworld. Captain Thela would never have knowingly brought us into a military operation. They retreated as daylight began to fade, setting warning systems around their shelter. Pressure plates, motion sensors, tripwires connected to silent alarms. If they're looking for us, they'll find us eventually, Cole said as they finished. We need to be ready when they do. Inside their hideout, he unrolled a detailed map of the region. We should relocate tomorrow. This position is too exposed. Fevra studied the map, her fingers tracing possible routes. What about here? She pointed to a deep ravine. Natural bottleneck, difficult approach. Cole nodded approvingly. Good tactical thinking. We'll move at first light. As night fell, the tension that had built throughout the day transformed into something else. Cole pulled Fevra against him, his mouth finding hers with desperate intensity. They surrendered to need, their bodies coming together with increasing familiarity, yet never diminishing hunger. Later, wrapped in each other's arms, Cole traced the length of her ear with gentle fingers. Whatever happens, he murmured against her skin, I don't regret finding you. Fevra turned to face him, blue fingers splayed across his chest. We'll survive this, she promised, both of us. But as she drifted to sleep in his arms, her thoughts returned to the landing site and its implications. Two forces converging on this planet, human and Zenari, both with unknown intentions, and both apparently willing to sacrifice innocent lives. And caught between them, an unlikely pair who had discovered something worth fighting for in each other's arms. Fevra sensed them before she heard them, a prickling awareness that woke her from uneasy sleep. Cole was already up, rifle in hand, his body tense with alertness. 3 of them, he whispered, moving in from the east. They had relocated to the ravine 2 days earlier, establishing defensive positions and escape routes. Now those preparations would be tested. Stay hidden, Fevra urged. Let me approach them first. If they're from my ship, they might listen to me. Cole's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I'll cover you from the ridge, 3 signals if you need extraction. She kissed him quickly, then slipped away, moving silently through the underbrush as he had taught her. At the ravine's edge, she caught her first glimpse of the approaching group. 3 Zanari, dressed in military scout uniforms, not the civilian attire of her colony ship. Leading them was a face she recognized with a cold shock. Commander Vasek himself, his dark blue skin bearing the ceremonial markings of special operations. Fevra stepped into view, hands raised. Commander Vasek. The 3 Zanari whirled, weapons raised, recognition flashed across Vasek's features. Navigation Officer Fevra, he said, lowering his weapon slightly, unexpected to find you alive. I survived the crash, she replied cautiously. How did you find me? Your distress beacon, he answered smoothly. We came as soon as we detected it. The colony ship's destruction was regrettable. Captain Thala would be pleased to know you survived. The careful phrasing confirmed her suspicions. You're not here for rescue, are you? Something cold entered Vasek's gaze. We're here to complete our mission, one that now includes recovering you and any intelligence you've gathered on this planet's unique properties. And the colonists, the civilians who died in that storm? Collateral in a greater purpose, Vasek replied without emotion. Their sacrifice will be honored when we claim this world for our people. One of Vasek's companions stepped forward. Commander, there are human energy signatures nearby. Recent activity. Fevra kept her expression neutral. I've been scavenging technology from abandoned sites. Survival necessities. Vasek studied her, ears angled in suspicion. Interesting. Our intelligence indicated all human presence was limited to the research facility. Yet you've survived weeks in hostile territory. I'm resourceful, she replied. Indeed, his gaze swept the ravine. And where is your human companion, the one who's been teaching you these survival skills? Fevra's blood froze. I don't know what you mean. Please, Vasek stepped closer. Our surveillance detected 2 distinct biological signatures at the beacon activation site. 1 Zanari, 1 human. His ears flicked forward aggressively. Where is he? Before she could respond, a small drone appeared overhead, projecting a holographic message. Commander Vasek, we've located the human dwelling. Heavily fortified but abandoned, signs of recent cohabitation. Vasek's eyes never left Fevra's. So the rumors were true, a human exile living off the grid, the only one who escaped the facility with critical research data. His thin smile held no warmth. 2 prizes instead of 1. The colony ship wasn't collateral damage, Fevra realized aloud. It was cover, an excuse to establish presence here without revealing your true intentions. Clever girl, Vasek acknowledged. Always were. Now call your human friend out before things become unpleasant. A subtle movement on the ridge caught Fevra's attention. Cole in position awaiting her signal. He's not here, she said firmly, and I won't help you find him. Vasek sighed, disappointing but not surprising. He gestured to his companions. Secure her. We'll use her to draw him out. Fevra's heart pounded as the 2 Zanari soldiers stepped forward, their weapons trained on her. She kept her eyes locked on Vasek, refusing to show fear, though her ears twitched nervously. Her mind raced, searching for a way out. Cole was close, watching from the ridge, but she couldn't risk giving him away. Not yet. Commander, think about this, Fevra said, her voice steady despite the tension. You're risking a war. If you take me, if you hunt him, you're dragging both our people into something neither can afford. Vasek's ears angled back, a sign of irritation. You speak of war, but you're standing on a planet that could end one. The technology here, the ability to control storms, to disable fleets, it's the key to our survival. Your human friends stole that future from us. He stole it to stop a massacre, Fevra shot back. You know what that facility is building, weapons that could wipe out entire systems. Is that what our people stand for now? The soldiers hesitated, glancing at Vasek. His expression darkened. You've spent too much time with that human. He's clouded your judgment. Before Fevra could respond, a sharp crack echoed through the ravine. One of the soldiers stumbled, clutching his shoulder as a pulse round grazed him. Cole's signal. Fevra dropped to the ground, rolling behind a boulder as another shot rang out, this one forcing Vasek to duck for cover. Fevra, move! Cole's voice cut through the chaos, urgent but controlled. She scrambled toward the ridge, her pulse weapon drawn. The second soldier fired wildly, blue energy bolts sizzling past her. Fevra's ears pinned back as she dove into the underbrush, her body low to the ground. Cole's hand grabbed hers, pulling her behind a rock outcropping. You okay? He asked, his green eyes scanning her for injuries. Fine, she gasped, but they know about you. They know everything. Cole's jaw tightened. Then we're out of time. We need to end this now. Above them, the drone hummed, its sensors sweeping the area. Vasek's voice carried through the ravine, cold and commanding. Fevra, you can't run forever. Surrender the human and the data and we'll let you live. Cole snorted, checking his rifle's charge. Nice guy. Any chance he means it? Not a chance, Fevra said, her ears flicking toward the sound of approaching footsteps. Vasek's special operations. He doesn't leave loose ends. Then we don't give him any. Cole handed her a small device, no bigger than her palm. Detonator. I rigged the ravine's upper ridge with charges before we moved here. If we can lure them into the bottleneck, we can bury their path and buy time. Fevra nodded, gripping the detonator. What about the facility, the data drive? Cole's expression hardened. We destroy it, all of it. If either side gets their hands on that tech, it's over. For everyone. They moved quickly, staying low as they navigated the rocky terrain. The ravine narrowed ahead, its steep walls creating a natural trap. Fevra's scanner pinged softly, detecting the Zanari soldiers closing in. The drone's hum grew louder, its searchlights cutting through the early morning mist. Cole the drone, Fevra whispered. It's locking onto us. He glanced up, then pulled a small EMP grenade from his vest. Cover your ears. She complied, flattening her sensitive ears as he lobbed the grenade. A sharp pulse erupted, and the drone sputtered, its lights flickering before it crashed into the rocks below. The soldiers' shouts grew frantic, their formation breaking as they rushed toward the sound. Now, Cole said, pointing to the detonator. Fevra pressed the trigger. A deafening explosion shook the ravine, sending a cascade of rock and debris tumbling down, sealing the narrow path. Dust choked the air, and for a moment silence fell. That won't hold them long, Cole said, pulling her to her feet. We need to get to the facility before they regroup. They ran, weaving through the dense forest toward the hidden valley. Fevra's mind raced with questions, but there was no time to ask. The facility loomed ahead, its massive storm arrays glowing faintly against the dawn sky. Cole led her to a maintenance access point he'd scouted during his years in exile. Security's tight, he said, prying open a panel, but I know the back doors. Harlow didn't change the codes after I left. Fevra watched as he worked, his hands moving with precision. You really think we can shut this place down? We have to, he said, not looking up. The data drive has the override codes for the storm generators. If we upload them, we can trigger a feedback loop. Fry the whole system. And if we fail? She asked, her voice quiet. Cole paused, meeting her gaze. Then we make sure no one else gets that data, no matter what. They slipped inside, the facility's sterile corridors a stark contrast to the wild planet outside. Alarms blared softly in the distance, likely triggered by the drone's destruction. Cole moved like he belonged, his rifle ready, while Fevra scanned for threats, her ears twitching at every sound. They reached the central control room, a vast chamber filled with monitors and humming machinery. The storm arrays outside were visible through a massive viewport, their energy cores pulsing ominously. Cole plugged the data drive into a console, his fingers flying across the controls. This'll take a minute. Keep watch. Fevra nodded, positioning herself near the door. Her scanner showed multiple signatures approaching, human and Zanari. Cole, we've got company, both sides. He cursed under his breath. Harlow's team must have picked up our signal. They're converging. The door hissed open, and Fevra fired a warning shot, forcing the first human guard to dive for cover. Shouts echoed down the corridor, a mix of human and Zenari voices. Fevra's heart sank. Her own people were working with the humans who'd built this weapon. Fevra, Vasik's voice rang out. You're fighting a losing battle. Stand down and we'll negotiate. No deal, she shouted back, firing another shot. You lied to us, Vasik. You used the colony ship as bait. A human voice joined the fray, sharp and authoritative. Cole, you traitorous bastard. You think you can sabotage years of work. Cole didn't flinch, his focus on the console. Harlow, he muttered to Fevra. He's obsessed with this project, won't stop until he's forced to. The console beeped and Cole grinned. Got it. Uploading the override now. The facility shook as the storm arrays outside began to hum louder, their energy cores glowing brighter. Fevra's scanner spiked with electromagnetic readings. Cole, whatever you're doing, it's working. Almost there, he said, sweat beading on his forehead. Just need to... A pulse blast grazed his shoulder, and he staggered, the data drive clattering to the floor. Fevra spun, firing at the human guard who'd slipped through a side entrance. The guard dropped, but more were coming. Cole! Fevra rushed to his side, helping him stand. Blood seeped through his shirt, but he waved her off. I'm fine. Get the drive. She grabbed it, plugging it back in. The console resumed its work, but the shaking intensified. Outside, lightning cracked, the sky darkening as the arrays overloaded. Vasik and Harlow appeared at the main entrance, flanked by their respective teams. Harlow, a lean man with cold gray eyes, sneered at Cole. You're throwing away humanity's future. And you're throwing away its soul, Cole shot back, clutching his shoulder. Vasik's gaze locked on Fevra. Navigation officer, stand down. This is your last chance. Fevra's ears flattened. You betrayed our people, Commander. You don't get to give me orders. The console emitted a final beep, and the arrays outside erupted in a cascade of sparks. The facility's lights flickered, and a deafening roar filled the air as the storm generators began to implode. Run, Cole shouted, grabbing Fevra's hand. They sprinted for the maintenance exit, dodging pulse fire. The facility groaned, metal twisting as the feedback loop tore through its systems. Behind them, Vasik and Harlow's shouts faded amid the chaos. They burst into the open air, the valley now a maelstrom of lightning and debris. Cole pulled Fevra behind a rock formation as the facility collapsed in on itself, a fireball lighting up the dawn. Panting, they watched the destruction. The storm arrays were gone, reduced to smoldering wreckage. The data drive, still in the console, was likely destroyed too. It's over, Cole said, his voice hoarse. No one's getting that tech now. Fevra touched his wounded shoulder, her fingers gentle. You're hurt. He managed a weak smile. Worth it. She tore a strip from her sleeve, binding his wound. What now? Both our people are going to be looking for us. Cole's green eyes met hers, steady despite the pain. We disappear. Together. This planet's big enough to hide us. Fevra's ears twitched, a small smile tugging at her lips. You think we can make it? Just the two of us? I've survived 3 years here alone, he said, pulling her close. With you, I'd bet on us against the galaxy. She kissed him, her lips soft against his, sealing their pact. The planet's storms might rage, and their people might hunt them, but they'd found something worth fighting for. Each other. Days later, they stood on a high ridge, overlooking a new valley untouched by the facility's destruction. Cole's arm was healing, thanks to Fevra's medical skills, and they'd salvaged enough supplies to start fresh. Your people, Cole said, breaking the silence. Do you think any survived? Fevra's ears tilted forward, listening to the wind. If they did, they're out there, looking for a new home, like us. He took her hand, his fingers warm against her blue skin. Then let's build one, right here. She nodded, leaning into him. The planet, once deemed uninhabitable, had given them a second chance, not just to survive, but to live. Together, they'd forge a new path, far from the wars and weapons of their pasts.